there might be an invitation coming if I can get myself to throw a party next week.
Oh, we've been over. Well, that's Pat Boom and I. Yeah. That was a good party. It was Judy there. Yeah. Does that mean we're ready?
Now you are.
Okay, let's call to order the city council meeting, regular scheduled meeting for July 13th. Before we do the roll call, the city attorney has an announcement. On mute, no less. I'm not the only one.
You got me. Good evening again. This time out loud. Governor Gavin Newsom's executive orders pertaining to the Brown Act currently remain in effect, allowing public meetings like this one to be held by teleconference to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. I would ask at this time for the clerk to please conduct the roll call and ask the mayor to recognize me afterward to confirm matters for the record.
Councilmember Armstrong,
Here.
Councilmember Veros,
Here.
Councilmember Zafar,
Here.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Here.
Mayor Hudson.
Here.
Thank you.
Recognize the city attorney.
Thank you. And based on the responses to the roll call, please let the record reflect that all council members can hear the proceedings clearly. And if there are no objections, the record will further reflect that each council member believes, based on voice or facial recognition or otherwise, that each person representing themselves to be council members are in fact council members.
Yes, we are.
Great. And seeing no objection, I'll turn the meeting back over to you, Mr. Mayor, with a reminder that all votes must be taken by roll call.
Thank you. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda tonight?
There are none this evening.
Okay, seeing none, the next item, 3.2, if you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please click the raise your hand button on your computer or *9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment is taken on the agenda item. You will then be unmuted when it is your turn to make your comment for up to 3 minutes. After your allotted time, you will be remuted. Item 3.3, board, committee, and commission meetings. A complete list of upcoming meetings may be found on the city website at www.sanramon.ca.gov. Subscription service is available at the link for automatic meeting notification. Contact the city clerk with questions, 973-2539. Public comment is open. Item 4, at this time, the public is permitted to address the city council on items that are on the consent calendar, requests for future agenda items, special presentation items under section 6 of tonight's agenda, which we have one item under section 6, and items that are not on the agenda. I am punching up the thing. We have one attendee. Let's hear from the attendee first. That would be Linda DeChambeau. Long time haven't heard from our former Moraga councilwoman. You have the floor, but you're muted, Linda. Oh, there you go.
How is that?
Perfect.
Thank you. Great. How is everybody this evening?
Just dandy.
So yes, I'm Linda DeChambeau. I'm the Executive Director of Contra Costa County Climate Leaders, which is also known as 4CL. And hopefully you all do get our monthly newsletter every month. I've lived in our beautiful Golden Hills of Contra Costa for 3 decades. I'm a retired environmental scientist from the US EPA office in San Francisco. I am a former council member and mayor of Moraga, as noted, and I currently also serve for the East Bay Regional Parks District on their advisory committee. So thanks actually for that. I noticed you had a proclamation coming up on parks making life better, and I have to comment that they also sequester greenhouse gas emissions, and they also are disappearing at an alarming rate. Even with the parks we've set aside in our beautiful East Bay Regional Park District I serve on, we are astounded at the rate that trees are dying. And it's more important than ever that we address the underlying issue of the drought, of the death, and that's climate change. I also see on your agenda tonight, and I know this is for unrelated, but I just want to comment quickly about the emergency rolling blackouts. And again, the underlying issue here is climate change. So my public comment tonight, as I'm here, to ask you a little bit about your timeline. I know you might not answer that tonight, but we can have a further discussion of what is City of San Ramon doing with your general plan update, because a number of cities are adding the required element on environmental justice, climate change, while at the same time you're doing your RENA numbers, your housing numbers. And our organization, 4CL, requests that you add 2 separate standalone elements at that time, one on environmental justice and one on climate change. We're working with 12 other Contra Costa County organizations, and we've put together four pages of comments that 7 other cities who are in the process of updating their general plans right now are using those. So I will follow this up tonight with an email with a copy of that. But in the meantime, what I'm asking tonight is, since the general plan's expensive, takes forever, tied to the housing element, can be long and tedious, and we don't have lots of time, I would ask that you please consider passing a climate emergency resolution, also called a CER, a declaration of the emergency that we all are seeing with these climate deaths and rollouts and heat-related deaths, I guess they're climate deaths, and tree deaths. There are many examples, including the Contra Costa County, our own Board of Supervisors passed a resolution this year declaring a climate emergency. So have the cities of Richmond, El Cerrito, and Martinez. And I would like to ask that you please place this topic of passing a climate emergency declaration on your city agenda for a full public hearing in the not too distant future.
Thank you, Linda. Our next caller is caller user number 1. And before they speak, Linda knows this by heart by now because she was on council long enough, but unfortunately, state law prevents the city council from discussing items that are not on their meeting tonight. We have 2 people, first caller in user 1 and then Chirag.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I am really tired of activists coming to our city council meeting, just like Scott Rafferty did, to push for, election redistricting for the past 2 years. And now we have a so-called scientist mayor of another city. A mayor of another city technically is an alien in our city. I don't know why these people have to come tell us what to do. I really don't appreciate that. There is no indication that our trees are dying. Maybe if you guys will not send people to set arsons or maybe pour chemicals to deliberately kill our trees will be fine. You guys are probably paid by other environmental groups who get foreign donations, who have profit and monetary interest, because you guys are trying to push for solar energy, electricity that you can make money off of. You are trying to grab and steal our resources. I don't appreciate you at all. Please stay out.
Okay, thank you. Chirag. And you're muted. There you go.
Hi, sorry, I didn't realize that I was muted. I've been here previously and I work with this Fridays for Future. We do the climate strike outside the city, and we would like the city to consider a climate action plan. And to addressing the number 1 person who said, I didn't know the name of the person who said that, but I would definitely like to have a word with it, with the person, and see what their thoughts are. Why do they think the solar, we are benefiting, or any environmentalist is benefiting out of this solar thing? It's basically good for everyone, and we already see the wildfires, and I would like to have a full public hearing for climate action plan and see if we can do the climate emergency declaration and setting up a sustainability council in city of San Ramon. I am a resident of San Ramon. I'm not an outsider for the person who were addressing previously.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I would expect city to set up some agenda on climate as such, climate actions.
Okay. I see no other attendees wishing to speak. Do we have any written comments on this? City Clerk?
We received no written comment this evening.
Okay, public comment is closed. As I stated earlier, unfortunately, state law prevents City Council from discussing items that are not on their meeting agenda. Consent calendar items, we have 5.1 through 5.6. These are generally routine in nature, act upon with a single motion. Any member of the council can request to remove one, or has anyone from the public asked to remove one in writing, City Clerk?
We do
Seeing
not.
none. Okay, we have one panelist that wants to remove one. That would be Scott Perkins.
No, I just want to make a motion to adopt and approve consent items 5.1 through 5.6.
Do we have
You
a
can
second?
Yeah, I
Okay,
can second.
Councilmember Beats hand sticking up Armstrong. So we have motion Perkins, second Zafar. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
I just have one
Yes.
quick comment. I went to the library foundation.
Did you
meeting.
say quick comment?
God help me, I did, didn't I?
Go ahead.
Library Foundation last night, and they're thrilled at the new agreement and the additional hours being provided by Contra Costa County is raising from 35 hours to 40 hours is how much is being provided by the county. And so that's helping us out in many ways. Though we are closed now on Sundays, they don't see that coming back anytime soon. It was extraordinarily difficult for the county to staff Sunday hours. And so we don't have, and then there are union issues and things like that. So, but we now have a few more hours in our libraries, and it's been working well for us for many years.
Yes, it has. Thank you, Scott. Okay, item 6.1, proclamation declaring
You have to
July.
vote. You have to vote.
I need a roll call vote, please.
So that's why, okay. Be that
Councilmember-
way.
Councilmember Armstrong,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrows,
Yes.
Councilmember Zafar,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Yes.
and Mayor Hudson.
Yes,
Thank you.
5-0, it passes. Item 6.1, proclamation declaring July 2021 as Parks Make Life Better Month. This will be an introduction by our community service supervisor, Adam Chow. Adam, are you with us right now? Do we need to bring him in?
I am
There
here.
he is. Okay,
All right.
you have the floor. Let's hear it from, and he'd better have his hand up and be there this time. I called on him 3 times at the last meeting, so go ahead.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Hudson and members of the City Council. Tonight, I'm here to introduce the proclamation for July as Parks Make Life Better Month. Parks Make Life Better is a statewide public awareness campaign created by the California Park and Recreation Society to inform citizens of the many benefits of utilizing parks, community facilities, recreation programs, and community services. The Parks Make Life Better campaign recognizes the importance of access to local parks, trails, open space, facilities, and community services for the health, wellness, development, inspiration, and safety of all Californians. During the last 16 months, Parks Make Life Better has never been truer. During the pandemic, residents took advantage of our parks, open space, and trails to improve their mental and physical health. And the Public Works Department continued to provide excellent services, make sure our parks were properly maintained and available for use by our residents. The Parks and Community Services staff provided a variety of essential community services, especially making sure that our seniors were well taken care of. Over the last 16 months, in cooperation with Contra Costa County and various other city departments and partners, we delivered 43,000 meals in the past 16 months, which is a large undertaking that we're very proud of to make sure that our seniors were well taken care of. In addition, our department is very excited about a returning of our community events, programs, and facilities. Just last week, we had our run ceremony and 4th of July celebration concert, which may have been the largest concert that we had in terms of numbers. If you were there, there were a lot of people there. There were seas of people, and it was great to see everybody come out and enjoy the concert. For Parks Make Life Better Month, we encourage residents to utilize our parks, open space trails, facilities, and community services as essential services in our community. With that, I will turn it back to you, Mayor Hudson, and read the proclamation and present it to Scott Reddix from the Public Works Department.
Thank you, Adam. And I have the proclamation of the City Council of the City of San Ramon, declaring July 2021 as Parks Make Life Better Month. whereas this proclamation recognized the importance of access to local parks, recreation, trails, open space, and facilities for the positive development of all San Ramon residents. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes physical, emotional, and mental health and wellness through organized and self-directed fitness, play, and activity. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports the economic vitality of communities by attracting new businesses, promoting community revitalization, increased tourism, providing jobs, and generating revenues. And whereas Parks and Recreation creates memorable experiences through engaging programs, dynamic events, and new opportunities designed to get people involved in their community. And whereas Parks and Recreation fosters social cohesiveness in communities by celebrating diversity, providing spaces to come together peacefully, modeling compassion, promoting social equity, connecting social networks, and ensuring all people have access to its benefits. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports human development and endless learning opportunities that foster social, intellectual, physical, and emotional growth in people of all ages and abilities. Whereas Parks and Recreation strengthens community identity by providing facilities and services that reflect and celebrate community character, heritage, culture, history, aesthetics, and landscape. And whereas Parks and Recreation facilitates community problem issue resolution by providing safe spaces to come together peacefully and facilitating conversations and services in order that our communities may heal both physically and emotionally. And whereas Parks and Recreation sustain and stewards our natural resources by protecting habitats and open space, connecting people to nature, and promoting the ecological function of parklands. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports safe, vibrant, attractive, progressive communities that make life better through positive alternatives offered in their recreational opportunities. And whereas the California Park and Recreation Society has released a statewide public awareness campaign, Parks Make Life Better, to inform citizens of the many benefits of utilizing parks, facilities, programs, and services. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of San Ramon recognizes the importance of access to local parks, trails, open space, and facilities for the health, wellness, development, inspiration, and safety of all our residents, and hereby proclaims the month of July 2021 as Parks Make Life Better Month in San Ramon. July 13th, signed the mayor. Once again, thank you, Adam, for bringing it. Scott, you better not be on mute. This is your third shot at this. A few words, please.
Well, good evening, Mayor Hudson. And before I start, I'd like to apologize for being absent 3 times during your meeting last week. It was a comedy of errors. I went from my desktop to my phone to my car, back to my phone, back to my desktop at home, back to my car, and I must have hit my hand, my raised hand, so I apologize.
Okay.
Anyways, good evening, Mayor Hudson, Vice Mayor Perkins, and fellow City Council members. It's my pleasure and honor to accept this proclamation declaring July as Parks Make Life Better Month on behalf of the Public Works Department, my Public Services Division, and our Parks and Community Services Department. We have been holding these events for more than 10 years in collaboration with Parks and Community Services, and have found the efforts put forth by the volunteers not only provides the city much welcome and needed assistance with parks projects, but it also instills a sense of ownership and pride in our beautiful parks for all that participate. Lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the glue that has held this program intact. That would be our 30+ year city employee and current Tempanouitan, Glenn Sauter, who has led almost every single Park Makes Life Better event to date and continues to lead these Saturday morning festivities to this day. So once again, thank you very much for this proclamation.
Thank you. Okay, any council questions or comments? Let me get over to panelists here. Go ahead, Sabina.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Scott. Certainly, this is a year to celebrate our parks in such a big way because of the pandemic. I think it really provided us an opportunity to get out there, like we said in the proclamation. So thank you for really maintaining our parks. That's the one thing I'm very proud as a council person. And I point out to people, I'm like, it's not easy to make our parks look the way they do. They require a lot of care, a lot of maintenance, water, mowing the lawn, and keeping them the way we do, and they look amazing. So thank you for that. And as a resident and as a council person.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Armstrong, Burrows, then so go ahead, Scott.
No, I just wanted to add, I wanted to thank Council Member Savar for the comments. It's been a long, almost year and a half now, and my staff, I couldn't be more proud of my staff. We have been working behind the scenes constantly this whole time. So thank you so much for that recognition.
Thank you. Member Armstrong, then Burrows.
Yeah, thanks, Adam and Scott. I think this Parks Make Life Better campaign, it's a wonderful program. I think it's a great way to show off the variety of parks that we have in our city. We have such wonderful parks, and I think in a large part that's due to our citizens, that they care about our parks and they provide input and feedback on what we need to do with our parks. And they enjoy them responsibly. And I also think it's, of course, obviously due because of the great Parks Department we've got and the public works staff that takes such great care of our parks. So, and I think it's great that we are able to prioritize our resources towards our parks and make sure that our parks are getting the right resources at the right time and the right place so that everybody can enjoy them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, a Member Burrows.
Yes, totally agree that parks makes life better. It's especially during COVID-19, it profoundly impacted everyone and delivered a message how important it is, because we could see pretty much majority of our residents either in the parks or they were in the open spaces. So we are very proud of our quality parks and diverse inclusive community services provided to all our residents. Thanks to our PCS Parks and Community Services, as well as our Public Works leadership, paving a way to build such a great parks and community services for our residents. Thanks to the past leadership, including the council members who had a great vision for our city. And thanks to our current leadership, Kathy from PCS team, Maria from Public Works, and your team did a fantastic job throughout this year, helping our residents to cope up with whole COVID-19 situation, but providing all these high quality services. So once again, let's continue the same high quality services to our residents, and thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Perkins.
I want to thank the Parks and Community Services Department, as well as the Public Works Department, for doing a fabulous job. We have had the best parks in the region, if not the state, for multiple decades. We are the envy of nearly every city in the state and possibly the country. You guys do a fabulous job of maintaining our parks, and I know people love using our parks because they are out there in droves, particularly because they can't travel the way they would like to travel. So they're out in our parks, and we have a fabulous program. So thanks a lot to Scott and Maria and Kathy and all the team. They do a fabulous job.
I would echo that, and especially thank you to the group, whoever had those pools open this weekend, because they had to be busy. I mean, when it hits 100, it's like we need 3 more pools. But I pledge I'm going to keep looking until I find another spot. And then I saw Jeff Ioro, and it kind of brought everything back to, Jeff used to swim that 1,600 meter or whatever. No wonder you had. Anyway, we'll get on with it. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Scott. There's no action is required on this. We thank you for coming out. We're going to go on to the next items.
One quick comment, Dave. One quick comment.
No, take as long as you want on the comment. No quick ones.
No quick ones. So I want to thank our commissioners, our Parks and Community Services commissioners. Without their support and help in the community, I don't think we would have such a great facilities. So thanks.
Thank you, Sridhar. And for those who don't know why I admonished the vice mayor for saying one quick question, many years ago, someone said, I have one quick question or one quick comment, and 45 minutes later, we were still answering it. So it's kind of an inside thing here. It isn't just me picking on him. Okay, there's no action required. We have no deferred consent calendar items, no city council appointments, no unfinished business. Let's move on to new business 10.1, the public safety power shutoff and emergency preparedness update. And I'm introducing Cliff Buxton. I guess you're going to take it away. There he is. Go ahead, Cliff. You have the floor.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Perkins, and council members for having me this evening. With the wildfire season upon us and the growing threat it poses, we felt it would be timely and appropriate to maybe hear a little bit about what's going on to be a little more prepared. So I'd like to start off by introducing some folks from PG&E who will be speaking about the public safety power shutoffs, or PS events. When they're done, I'll be back here to wrap things up with some insight about what San Ramon and our community is doing also to prepare. So without further ado, from PG&E, we have Sarah Yoel, Government Relations Representative, Les Putnam, a Public Safety Supervisor, and Vic Baker, a Senior Manager of their Division Leadership Team.
Sounds good to me. Okay, Sarah, we're going to give you the floor. You introduce them as the time comes to cut them in, and let's hear about the PSPS, which is got to be driving you guys crazy right about now. Wait till you hear my idea for it.
Well, good evening, Mayor Hudson and members of the San Ramon City Council. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today to discuss our public safety power shutoff and community wildfire safety program. Today, we want to talk about what we're doing to reduce the threat of wildfire in San Ramon and system-wide, and the opportunities for us to work together to improve the public safety power shutoff program. I'm going to hand it off to Les Putnam, who will talk about wildfire risks.
Les?
Great. Yep, thank you, Sarah. Christina, are we able to get our program on? I'm not seeing it here.
There you go.
There we go. Thank you. Next slide, please, Christina. Well, thank you, Mayor, City Council, for allowing us to join you tonight and give you a brief update of how we're handling our community wildfire safety program and some of the changes that we have in 2021 and in the future. What I first want to talk about is what we call the wildfire threat map. This is a map that is actually developed by the CPUC and other utility companies, including PG&E, and county, state, and fire agencies. And the map basically indicates where the higher fire threat zones are within the state of California. And you can see in the map that we have here, the yellow areas are what we call tier 2 or elevated fire threat areas. The red areas are tier 3 or extreme fire threat areas. And then if you focus in on the city of San Ramon, you'll see that you have a little bit of tier 2, and that's at the near and around the Mount Diablo Basin area. And then you also have some minor areas in the tier 3 area, which are along the East Bay Hill Ridge area there. As an overview, in Contra Costa County, we have nearly 500,000 customers. Of those, about 18,000 customers live in the high fire threat zones. That's the tier 2 or tier 3 areas. As far as the facilities that we have in Contra Costa County, we have 2,236 miles of distribution line, and that would be the lower voltage, anything below 4,000 or anything between 4,000 and 21,000 volts. And then within that distribution miles, nearly 450 miles are in that high fire threat. As with the transmission lines, 907 miles total in Contra Costa County, 430, nearly half, are in the high fire threat. So you can see that there's a significant risk in Contra Costa County, including San Ramon, regarding wildfires and the threat that we have, especially given the current fire weather conditions and drought conditions that we're experiencing in the area. If you or anybody else, any citizens want to look at where they are in this fire threat area, you can actually log into cpuc.ca.gov/fire threat maps, and you can actually pinpoint where you are in relationship to the tier 2, tier 3 areas. Next slide, please.
Just a
Just as an
comment,
overview.
just a comment on that. I
Go
just
ahead.
tried
Yes, sir.
that. I just tried that link that you mentioned. It doesn't
Yes, sir.
work. You get an error statement. The one that does work is ia.cpuc.ca.gov/firemap/. That's ia.cpuc.ca.gov/firemap/. The one you had on that slide doesn't work. It gives you an error statement.
Thank you for that. Was not aware of that. That may be just a glitch in the system at this time, but I'll investigate that and see if maybe we need to update that slide and get a different site on there. Thank you.
Somebody might be working on it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what we're doing to reduce fire potential is obviously we inspect our system on an annual basis, and sometimes more often than annually. We make our repairs, and we are also involved in what we call an enhanced vegetation management program. That's where we're removing dead or dying trees away from our transmission and distribution lines, trying to create more defensible space and create a fire break as well. We are continually hardening the system, which basically means we are changing out wires to coated wires so we don't get arcing. We are reinforcing our poles or putting new poles in that are less susceptible to wind damage and thereby failing. And then again, constantly inspecting the system. We also, as a last resort, we have the public safety power shutoffs, and we're going to talk about that in more detail and what that entails. But that's one of the tools, and typically the last resort for us to be able to prevent the potential for a wildfire due to the weather that might be approaching. Next slide, please. So I wanted to talk a little about some of the resources that we have in Contra Costa County. We currently have 35 weather stations in Contra Costa County. These are microclimate weather stations stationed throughout the area, and what they do is give not only PG&E meteorology, but also fire agencies and the general public, for that matter, immediate information on the microclimates within the area. The fire departments and our weather meteorologists use this information to determine fire behavior. If we get an ignition, where will the fire go? How fast will it spread? And then we can actually predict the intensity as well as the direction and the duration of a fire based on the weather conditions. In addition to that, we also have HD high definition cameras throughout the county. We've installed at this point nearly 300 in our territory. We have a goal of 1,600 weather cameras total, and 16 of these are in Contra Costa County. That's an upgrade of about 6 cameras from last year. And as you focus in on the map, you can actually see that we have a number of cameras in and around the San Ramon area. We actually have one located at San Ramon Fire Station number 31 in the Blackhawk area. We have others in the Alamo area and in the foothills near the Mount Diablo Basin area. So another great resource is not only for PG&E, but for fire agencies to be able to get eyes on an incipient stage early fire, to visualize it and see what type of resources and where these resources need to be deployed to be able to prevent rapid spread of the fire. Next slide, please. So what types of outages our citizens, our customers, what can they expect? Obviously, we have the public safety power shutoff, but let's start off with some of the actual more common outages that you would see. So rotating outages, this is what typically everybody is calling a brownout. These are not outages that are created by PG&E. They actually are created by CAISO, the California State Operators Grid. And this is typically, as we saw in the last few days, when we have high heat events and the West Coast system is stressed and we're not producing, able to get enough energy to meet the demand. or as in the last few days, a fire impacts a transmission line that's feeding into California, and thereby, as it's threatened, it could reduce the amount of energy available to the state. So these are rotating blackouts. They typically last about an hour or two. Again, Casio, the state operator, would monitor these, and they would have PG&E phase out and phase in different circuits based on a grid system that they've already pre-established via a code. And so that's one type of outage. Then we have our emergency repairs. This is obviously something that would occur because of damage to our system, whether it's a vehicle into a pole, a wire down for whatever reason, those types of events. They are immediate need. We send resources immediately to make those repairs. They could last anywhere from a few hours to a few days, depending on the type of equipment that was impacted in that area. Then we have our planned maintenance shut-off events, where we actually provide 10 days notice to our customers that would be impacted. And this is obviously where PG&E is initiating the outage to make repairs and do modifications or upgrades to our system. We have active wildfire outages. So if, for instance, San Ramon Fire Department had a vegetation wildland fire in the area, and it impacted our, was in and around our electrical lines, they would, the incident commander for that fire would ask PG&E to de-energize that line for firefighter safety. We would do so immediately, and thereby creating an outage to customers in that immediate area. As soon as it was safe to do so, we would re-energize, inspect the lines, re-energize, and get our customers back in service. And then again, lastly, we have public safety power shutoff. And I'm going to get into what that is here shortly, so I don't want to give any more details right now. Next slide, please. So what is a public safety shutoff? Basically, when we have the potential for high winds, dangerous weather that could cause trees, branches, debris to fly into our lines or into our equipment and create arcing and damage that may have the potential for a wildfire, we look to turn off the energy in that area to prevent that wildfire from occurring. So once the weather begins, we are monitoring it. We make notifications. As the weather impacts our system, we shut off the electricity. And once the weather disperses, we inspect the system, make repairs as necessary, and then re-energize customers as quickly as we can to get this, the power back on. Next slide, please. So what leads up to a public safety power shutoff? There's a number of factors that come into play. And again, remember, this is the last resort tool that we have to prevent wildfires. So typically what we would see is a red flag warning day. And those come often. And then just because we have a red flag warning day doesn't mean we're going to have a public safety power shutoff. Other things are calculated into how we look at that process. So low humidity, typically levels below 30% and into the teens, would indicate that's another potential problem for weather. Whether we have high winds would be sustained winds of over 20 miles per hour with gusts anywhere from 30 to 40 miles per hour. Once again, dry conditions, that would be where the fuels have very low moisture content. So the trees, the leaves, all the low-lying vegetation is very dry, and we're already in that situation right now in California throughout the state. And that's a continuous problem right now. And so we would look at that as a factor. And then we also have what we call on-the-ground real-time observations. We have PG&E employees who are constantly, as we see weather coming in, monitoring the microclimate weather in various locations. They're checking on the soil conditions, the debris and wood conditions, and also looking at the weather as it progresses. All those come into play to make that decision as to whether or not we're going to shut off electricity due to a weather event. Next slide, please. So how will customers be notified? So once our meteorologists identify the potential for an event, we begin notifications 48 hours prior to the event. We typically start off by notifying county OES. We'll notify first responders, that's our fire and police agencies, and government officials of the potential for a public safety power shutoff. These could change as the weather changes, gets better, gets worse. The timelines can change, the conditions can change. We could escalate this or de-escalate based on the ongoing conditions. 48 hours before the power shutoff, we go into what we call a watch mode. And basically, we're looking to identify and notify people at that point that there is the potential for a power shutoff. Once again, at the time of the power being shut off, we'll make the same notifications to our customers and all of our external partners. And those notifications will come via either automated calls, texts, emails, however the customer has opted to be informed through our pg&e.com websites. During the event, we also notify customers that the event is ongoing and that we are in a public safety power shutoff. And then once the power is restored, we'll make the last notification indicating power has been restored, so that if for some reason those customers did not get restored, they could make contact with PG&E so we can send troublemen out to investigate if there's some other reason that they may still be without power. And one of the new things that we've introduced for 2021 is an address alert system. If you go to pge.com/address alerts, you can actually put in any address, whether it's a school, your daycare person, your work address, and it will indicate whether or not that location will be impacted by the upcoming public safety power shutoff. Next slide, please. So I'm going to turn this over to Sarah, and Sarah is going to go ahead and start from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. So I'm going to talk about routine and enhanced vegetation management. So we're taking steps every day to improve the safety and reliability of our electric system, including managing trees and other vegetation located near power lines that could cause a wildfire or power outage. Through this routine vegetation management program, we inspect approximately 10,000 miles of overhead power lines across our service territory every year. Some of those locations are patrolled multiple times a year. We prune or cut down more than 1 million trees annually to maintain clearance around the power lines, and we cut down dead, diseased, dying, or defective trees, primarily in areas affected by drought and bark beetles. In addition to this routine vegetation management work, our enhanced vegetation management program addresses vegetation that poses a higher potential for wildfire risk in high threat fire areas. Next slide, please. Here we'll talk about tree overstride exposure and the PSPS decision making. The safety of our customers and communities is our most important responsibility. And each year we have made improvements to the PSPS program for safety. The same thing is true this year. You may have heard about the additional criteria we have developed for our public safety power shutoff program to keep our customers and communities safe. To help prevent major wildfires, the federal court recommended, not requiring, that we account for trees that are tall enough to strike power lines when deciding whether to turn off power for safety. We have proposed adding these criteria to our PSPS program for the safety of the customers and communities we serve. Next slide, please. Next, I'm going to pass it off to Vic Baker, who's going to finish off the presentation for us. Vic, are you on?
Oh, Vic is on mute.
There you are.
Yeah, I decided to give the entire presentation on mute.
I do that quite a bit, Vic.
Right, but thank you all for having me. Appreciate it. Can you hear me? Thumbs up? Yeah, we're good? Okay, good. So I get to talk about community and our community response and our partnerships. And to kick that off, our community resource centers in times of PSPS. So as you're aware that during a public safety power shutoff event, we open community resource centers or CRCs, where community members have access to basic resources, including safe location to meet and maybe satisfy their basic power needs, such as charging medical equipment or electronic devices. Also a place where you can receive up-to-date information about the PSPS event itself, as well as access to water and snacks and other essential items you may need throughout the day. Our aim here is to open our community resource center locations as soon as possible for any PSPS event that is forecasted to last longer than 24 hours. And so for you, that would be in the next city in Danville, actually. It's right on the cusp of Danville and San Ramon at the Costco Center in Danville. I think the actual address is in Danville. But if you want to know more about CRCs and actually get the exact location, we have more locations that we can prop open at any time, but it really depends on the demand. You can also visit pge.com/CRC. That's pge.com/CRC, and you can find more information about our community resource centers. Next slide. So customer preparedness and resources. So this year, we're doing more than help our customers and communities before, during, and even after the PSPS events. And we're doing this with the help of our working side by side with our community-based organizations. We are working with over 19 community-based organizations in Contra Costa to provide all types of support and resources throughout a PSPS event. That includes also expanding the language offerings as well. And that is providing information in 16 non-English languages, which is tremendous as far as I'm concerned. We want to increase, and we have increased our meal replacement options, collaborating with local food banks and Meals on Wheels to provide food replacement packages, as well as collaborating with our partners such as the California Foundation for Independent Living. You know, our frail and elderly are important. So we are partnering with the Disability Disaster Access and Resource Programs. And this enables us and enables qualifying customers who use electrical medical devices to access backup portable batteries. Additional assistance includes access to transportation resources, hotel vouchers, and food stipends. And that's all following PSPS events. Very proud of our efforts to provide batteries to income qualified medical baseline customers and those who, where we can meet their critical medical needs in case of a PSPS event. We're offering our customers who depend on well water pumps and live in high fire threat areas, we're offering them rebates for purchasing of qualified portable power generators. And we continue to sharpen our saw. Every day we're sharpening our saw. This is our third year going into this, or this is going into our fourth year, we're into 3. We're going into our 4th year of this, but we're continuing to sharpen our saw. We welcome any suggestions on any organizations you think we need to partner with. We're more than happy to reach out to them and work with them on behalf of the city of San Ramon. Next slide. So a little bit about the Disability Disaster Access and Resource Program. As I mentioned, we are working with this organization and this resource program to provide support before, during, and after these events. So as you see on this slide, that during 2020, PSPS events, approximately 1,700 customers were assessed and provided resources you see through the program. Right? That's 1,700 system-wide, not just in San Ramon, but system-wide. And that includes over 1,000 batteries we distributed. And I would offer opportunity to anyone on the call to visit disabilitydisasteraccess.org to get more information. That's disabilitydisasteraccess.org to get more information about those offerings. Next slide. So of course that was a lot, and we're getting close to the end here, but there's plenty more information I want to share with you. So I want to leave it with this slide purposely, because we do respect your time. So we prepared this slide, and we'll leave this slide on while we go through this question and answer portion. Actually, there's one slide back, but I would say let's go back to this slide during the question and answer portions, because there's so many resources we have available to you. And any of these, we have websites that you can go. One of my favorites, of course, is the Children Prepare for Emergencies. Our children in our house, just a personal story, as they come home, as they talked about emergency preparedness at their school, they offer that at home. I didn't realize how non-prepared I was at my house. And to run drills with your children was a fantastic experience for me. And it really showed where our gaps were, and we prepare for them. So our kids are really running the show with emergency access and preparedness in our household. The most important website to remember, though, is at the very top, and that's pge.com/wildfire safety. pge.com/wildfire safety. On that website, you will find all resources referenced here and in this slide. With the exception of the first one, I checked it as well. That link did not work, so we will update that and get that out to you. And at this time, I want to return it back to Sarah. Sarah?
Thanks, Vic. Sarah?
Yeah, so that's our presentation. Thank you so much for having us. We're happy to answer any questions that you all have. The clerk has the presentation also for you for distribution later on.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. We're going to open up just to questions right now, and then I'll ask council if they have any comments after we have our attendees. I know we have one that wants to speak. So questions, Scott Perkins.
Yeah, on the slide that showed the cameras around town and the weather stations, it looked like there were a couple in San Ramon, but it was very hard to read. Can you tell me more about the stations, the weather stations and camera stations that are in San Ramon and where they're located?
Yeah, I can give you a couple of locations. We'll start with the high definition cameras. So once again, we have a camera station at fire station number 31 in Blackhawk. That camera gives us a view of the 680 corridor and the base of Mount Diablo in that location right there. We also have, and that's actually the only camera directly in San Ramon. We've added additional cameras. If you, I don't know if you can blow that up, but there are additional cameras in and around. So we have cameras in what I believe is Alamo area. There are some cameras in the Moraga area as well. And right now, that is currently the only cameras we have in the immediate area. With that being said,
it looks like there's one planned. It says on the western boundary, proposed 2021 HD camera install location. Is that on the western boundary of San Ramon or the county boundary?
That's correct. That has not been installed at this time, so I didn't mention that one, but that is a planned camera. We're working with Lafayette PD. They have a person there that is very in tune to the cameras and actually assists us in installing them on towers and in elevated locations. And we're hoping to have that one installed before the end of summer.
Okay, thank you.
And I didn't mention this, but all of the cameras can actually be viewed by the general public. And the website for that would be alertwildfire.org. And you can log into that website. You click on the area for East Bay, and when you do that, you can actually have a view of all of the cameras in the East Bay locations. You cannot manipulate the cameras, but it will allow you to see what we would actually currently see in that location.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Burrows, and then Zafar.
I heard mentioning about customer preparedness and resources, and also disability disaster resources. These are all like fantastic resources available for customers and residents in our community. But one thing I would say that the biggest challenge is going to be how we can outreach, provide this information to the community. So could you please explain, like, or give us how you are reaching out to the customers to let them know these are available?
So several ways. So the customers are being notified in so many ways, this being one of the ways that they're being notified. So we've given community talks just like this one. Les, myself, and Sarah have given these types of talks at the county level, at the region level, at the city level, as well as you find notifications in your bill. We send out IVRs, which are the robocalls as well. We ensure that we make for sure to reach out to our medical baseline customers prior to a PSPS event. It's important that they get the information. And if they don't call back, if we don't hear from them, we will send somebody out to tap on their door to make sure that they receive their information. They're prepared for a PSPS event.
Sounds good. Also, I think, I know you're trying your best with all different options, but after all this, for sure, there will be a lot of huge gap within the community where they may not get updates. Like personally, like this is first time I'm hearing a lot of this information. So that's why I'll give you some feedback on that. So thank you.
Not a problem.
I also want to mention we have seminars to the general public on a regular basis. In fact, we just completed one last Thursday for Alameda, Contra Costa, and Santa Clara counties. And those seminars are virtually identical to the information we just provided you in the city of San Ramon. And we will have more of those in the future. They're advertised not only through our local TV and radio channels, but also through social media. And so we invite the public to join us on these meetings and give them opportunities for questions and answers.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Sabina, then Mark.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. So one of the questions I get frequently asked is there a plan to put these lines underground? Curious if there is a long-term plan, if it's too expensive, and that's, you know, that's something you guys are not thinking about, but.
So more of a goal, less a plan. But we are concentrating on undergrounding those areas that are highly that are affected by our last set of wildfires and PSPS events. So as we plan this out, we are prioritizing. And those are, of course, the North California areas and those really hit by those wildfires. So our resources are going toward those areas at this moment. But our president and CEO has identified this as one of her goals. She sees this as an opportunity for us to look at undergrounding. But as you will well know, that we are hindered by resources, and we want to make sure that those people who have been affected their needs are met first.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's one of her top goals. That means a lot. The other question I had was, how do you partner with a fire department during these PSPS events? And maybe Cliff will give me an update later, but I was curious to know, what does that partnership look like?
So I'm happy to answer that one. So my job as a public safety specialist for PG&E is I am the actual liaison for all fire agencies and police agencies in Contra Costa County. So I do reach out to Chief Meyer on occasion. We have conversations. I actually know him personally as well. And if there's a need, he reaches out to me and we would collaborate on any needs for the city regarding a PSPS event. We work using the incident command system. And with that being said, I reach out generally to the county OES director, who thereby would set up a cadence of meetings as we start to look at 48 hours prior to an event. And then we would have twice-a-day meetings with not only county OES, but any of our external agencies that want to join those meetings. And we would discuss needs and opportunities for us to assist in any issues. We invite the water districts, the wastewater districts, as well as any other utilities to join us in those meetings as well, so that we're collaborating to make this as safe a situation as we can for our customers.
And not to brag, but I do need to let everyone know, Les, he's been very humble right now, but Les is a public safety specialist. He and his counterparts are large in part are retired or former fire employees, so firefighters. So we rest assured that he talks the talk and can talk the talk with those fire officials within your city.
Thank you. And I guess I did have one more question. With these incidents where you might have to turn off the main grid, are you looking at microgrids at all, and making electricity available to cities or smaller areas through microgrid system?
So I can, and correct me if I'm wrong, Les, when I say this, but we have looked at microgrid. We have a few microgrids, again, in those areas. Those are test areas and pilots in those areas that were highly affected by the fires. So we're doing our analysis at this moment on how well they operate. It's these seasons that we need a season to find out how well they operate and see if we can spread those out. But again, no different than undergrounding. We're going to prioritize those areas that are highly affected by fires and subject to for more PSPS events.
Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, I think my question maybe for Les. Early on, you were talking about the high fire threat areas and you had a map there that showed San Ramon. I might have missed it, but did you also have the map that shows the underground power lines for San Ramon as well? And how many are above ground and how many are underground for San Ramon?
No, that map wasn't part of the presentation. That's something we can provide you. I can absolutely, and I can do this with your emergency manager or fire chief, police chief as well, and give you what we call a flyover. And so bring up the city of San Ramon, show you where the circuits are, show you which ones are underground versus above ground, which are in the high fire threat areas, and so you can see the impact. That's something we would love to collaborate with and give you a better understanding of the threat you might or might not have in the city.
Yeah, just kind of a one over the world. When I recall seeing that slide previously, when we did the city update back on the 4th of June, and we did the flyover thing, what I recall was that we only really have the high fire threat areas kind of on the fringes of the city, adjacent to our open space, and we have a significant portion of the city that it was kind of color-coded green, that is underground in terms of those circuits. And so that gave me a little bit of a comfort feeling that even if we're having a significant red flag type warning event, that we may not experience something directly in the city because so much is underground. Although we still do have, a significant amount above ground. Can you comment on kind of the level for San Ramon?
Yeah, and it's a great point, council member, in that you do have a lot of underground in San Ramon, and the typical above ground lines do fringe on tier 2, tier 1 areas. So we are looking at that to see how we can harden those areas and make them more resilient for a PSPS event. With that being said, though, the reason that some of the areas still get impacted, even underground, is that if the above ground wires go through a tier 2, tier 3 area that could be impacted, meaning your distribution line is coming out of the Moraga Lafayette area where they have heavy tier 3 areas, and we shut that line down, consequently it could shut down your underground lines even in the city of San Ramon. And that is where we are looking at potentially doing microgridding in some areas or generation or those types of things to recover those underground systems that aren't directly in a tier 2, tier 3 area.
Good. All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks for that clarification.
So I think, I was just going to make a point that if we could get actually access to that map, which Councilmember Armstrong mentioned, I think we could be good advocates in the community to share with our residents, because they always are curious to know how this is laid out in San Ramon.
Which is good. But again, just to reiterate what Les said, it's important that as we share that information, that it does not prevent a PSPS event for people who are underground communities. And as we build out as developers build out new communities, most, if not all communities now that are new are going to be underground. And that is by directive of your building codes, right? They want everything underground. That does not prevent a PSPS event from happening. You guys are fed by two, I'm looking at it now, two substations that are both going over Mount Diablo. So if anything happens over Mount Diablo at any time, it's going to affect your city going into those substations, right?
Sridhar, you have a backup?
Yeah, I have one more question regarding the data for the power shutoff. How accurate is your data? Because why I'm asking that question is last time or last year or 2 years back when we were receiving these notifications, there was a lot of confusion, like neighbors, they were confused whether they have going to have power shutoff or not. And so how accurate this data is going to be?
Hey, can I just tell you, it was terrible. It was bad. And we've gotten better from year over year. We've gotten better with our notification and our communication. And so, yes, we had some technical difficulties where systems weren't talking to other systems, and you were getting notified with outage notifications that were planned outage, non-planned outage, PSPS events, all types of things. But I believe we've fix those. We identify what those issues are. So you should not be receiving those issues moving forward.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, let's open it to the public. We now have 2 speakers that want to come in. Caller and user 1 was first, then Chirag. We can hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I just want to say that our mayor and council members are very polite. I'm going to be very blunt. This report is very sloppy, to say the least. You keep saying that Blackhawk is part of San Ramon. Really? No, wrong city. San Ramon is not part of Blackhawk. And the fact that you don't really know where are, you know, the stations and all that, and you're just looking at the picture, please be more prepared next time before you come to our presentation. We're not dumb city. We don't have dumb people here. We do listen, and we can catch your mistakes and your sloppiness, and it's not acceptable. I just want to say that what really frustrates me the most is when Ms. Yoel was presenting, she mentioned about vegetation management. She didn't go into details as far as how frequently you guys are inspecting the vegetation. With what are you inspecting the vegetation with? Is it by manpower? Is it by drones? And are you sure you're inspecting the right vegetation? I really don't have any confidence in you. It doesn't even seem like you know where San Ramon is. Maybe you're inspecting Dublin and then you think that you're inspecting San Ramon. Today, I just read a news in Taiwan, Yahoo. They reported a Californian fire marshal who is actively now using goats to create firewalls or fire vegetation lines that prevent fire from spreading from place to place, and it's environmentally sound. So you don't have to go in and actually burn vegetation. I would like to see that being implemented in our area, using animals to eat up grass instead of burn grass. I think it's important. I also would like to know that if you guys can please let residents know what we need to be prepared. If we have fire hydrants in our house, would that help? What is the most critical, time frame, and what can we do to help, as an individual, as house owners, how can we help stop the fire? That's what I would like to hear. Today, your presentation is absolutely an F. Thank you.
Chirag, you're next. You're muted.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
So I would like to ask PG&E, why do they think, is it
You broke up.
because of the aging infrastructure, or is it because of climate?
I'm sorry, something's wrong with your line. You're in and out.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So I would repeat. So I would like to ask PG&E officials, is the wildfire because of their aging infrastructure, or is it because of climate change? And I would like them to answer this question.
Okay.
And city should take a note of it.
Okay, Linda DeChambeau. Go ahead, Linda. You're muted there.
Thanks again. I'm an environmental scientist and educator. I want to thank you, PG&E, and I have to admit I am surprised that between all 3 or 4 of you, the word climate change was not mentioned this evening. Your organization has been very supportive of our nonprofits and many others at the rate of $50,000, $60,000 a year. And I appreciate the one council member who talked about microgrids and opportunities that could be looked at to change the underlying system. But I just feel like I'd love to know more about being proactive. This reactive and responsive to this crisis is obviously essential. We have an emergency on our hands. But if you could address the climate impacts and what can cities do to do that? What can PG&E do to do that? How can they support microgrids? How can they support all of this, dead trees, more drought. It's not just a fire issue. It's like we're planning for lung cancer deaths and handing out oxygen tanks to help the victims breathe without actually addressing. Someone mentioned public education on the dangers. I mean, the dangers of cigarette smoking. The danger here is what we've done to our environment. It's not about risk, it's a climate issue. It's a holistic problem. And how can San Ramon be more proactive in addition to you need to take to be reactive? So I ask again, what is your city doing on climate action planning? It was drafted in 2007. We provided a countywide grant to 17 cities. San Ramon was one of them. And here we are in 2021, and I haven't heard of any action. I took a little walk down on a Friday a couple weeks ago, that lovely picture of your city hall behind all of you. You've got some local youth who are striking in front of your city hall every Friday, joining Greta Thunberg and others across the world. And I guess I would ask, what is the city of San Ramon doing to take action? So 1, when is your general plan going to be updated to include climate change? 2, when is your climate action plan going to be updated and have measurables in it this time? And 3, can you please place the topic of declaring a climate emergency on a future agenda? Thank you.
You don't have to address that one, PG&E. I think I'll take that one on, because San Ramon is so far ahead of all the other cities in what we're doing for climate change. Scott Perkins sits on the board of directors for MCE. I sit on the board of directors for the Bay Area Quality Management District. What we have just done, in fact, I'll just leave it at this. Luz Gomez asked the same question the last meeting and the meeting before that. And I think Debbie Chamberlain sent her a perfect letter that explains some of the things that we are doing. We've been on our climate action plan on this from day one. I'm probably one of only 5 council members in this 97 Contra Costa elected officials that have actually read AB 32, the climate action plan for the state, and SB 375. And I can tell you that we're far ahead of many. I'm still waiting for the executive director at CARB to send me the latest reforestation protocols. There's a difference between just climate change and what the state is mandating in greenhouse gases. And so when you float between particulate matter and the 6 greenhouse gases, that is a statewide issue. Talking about what a city can do is almost useless. But as far as particulate matter, we've been on that from day one. And pre-COVID, the Bay Area Air Quality Management District finally made that priority 1. 12 years ago, I brought that up at the Air District, and that's when it started. So to talk about San Ramon not being on top of this, I'm glad that everybody's out protesting and wants more, but you're protesting for the people that have made it priority 1, and it doesn't fly very well. Now, the questions that were directed at PG&E, if you want to state any of them or discuss any of them, please. All I can tell you is my son worked for the ISO, and calling it climate change emergency versus aging of infrastructure, there's not a doubt in my mind, it's aging of infrastructure. There's always climate change, always. I can never remember a time in my life there hasn't been climate change. But I'll leave it to you, Sarah. Not that I'm getting upset about this at all.
I'll just address the vegetation management issue because I did cover it in the presentation. We do inspect annually, sometimes more. We do helicopter inspections. We go out and do actual inspections. Also, I actually live in Danville, so I am from the community, so I do know the difference between Black Hawk and San Ramon.
Well, you've got a training center here. Let that one go.
We have a training center. We're committed to being in San Ramon. As we're moving our headquarters out, San Ramon is a city that we'll be staying in, and it's an important partnership for us. And we appreciate the invitation and the ability to give the presentation, and are happy to answer any other questions or to be available via email. Thank you so much for having us tonight.
Okay, all right, thank you. The public comment is closed. And any new people? Are there any other comments that the council wants to make?
Yeah, I think, Sarah, I believe PG&E has also signed the climate pledge. So you are actually doing that. Are you able to share some of that with us at all?
Vic, do you have that information?
Not specifics, but you're right. We
Okay.
did sign the climate pledge. It's not something we run away from it. We've announced publicly that we recognize climate change as an issue. Yes, we are reactive in this particular moment because we're dealing with a crisis at the moment. But at the same time, we've actually committed to looking to the future and what we need to do for what power looks like and providing energy looks like in the future. So we have
And
a
in
commitment
terms
to
of
that as well.
goals, yeah. And in terms of goals, what is your goal for decreasing your carbon footprint? You know, like California has a 2035. Is that an alignment you have with what the governor said?
We were invited to do a public safety power shutoff presentation, which is what we prepared for. We do have folks who work specifically on climate change and sustainability at PG&E. We're happy to set you up with them. They're an amazing team and they have a lot of information, and PG&E is doing a lot around sustainability. Happy to set up a separate presentation for that if you like.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, I want to thank you again for your presentation this evening. I know that PG&E and probably all the distributors, don't make these decisions lightly on the public safety power shutoffs. And I appreciate what you do that you were talking about to reduce the wildfire potential. I know Steven Spadowski, when we did the city update back in June, even mentioned that from a city perspective, there's cows on our hills. That's part of the some of the things that are taking place to keep the grasses down. We've got the Goats R Us. We got goats out over in Faria where they're developing, and along the 680 corridor. I've seen them myself. So I know there's some things that are going on using animals as well. And I appreciate that you're using real-time information out to help inform your decisions. And that you're trying to minimize the impact to the customers, at least the number of customers, and whatever you can do to kind of shrink that grid, make it the microgrids or whatever. Hopefully these temporary outages, if we do experience a PSPS, are going to be just that, temporary inconveniences. But if they help to prevent fires somewhere, and they save lives and save property, then there's a risk, there's a trade-off that we all have to understand and accept. I hope all of our San Ramon residents will sign up for some of these notifications that were indicated here. I think that's important for everyone to stay informed and to anticipate what actions they may need to take if in the event of a PSPS. They often happen on our hottest days, and people should know where to go. If we haven't actually declared a cooling center, then they should know that we have our community centers, we have our libraries, we have our city hall, we have places where our seniors can go to stay cool on those days if there is a power shutoff. And I appreciate Vic bringing up the whole issue about that some of our residents probably have some durable medical equipment needs, whether it's CPAPs or oxygen machines, or they need to power their mobility devices and that sort of thing. So I just appreciate that resources are available, and that we're going to get the word out to people, especially if they sign up for those alerts, so that they can anticipate and take some action on their own as well. So thanks again for your presentation. I think this is always good information for the community, and it's not an easy business you're in. I know you get plenty of feedback all the time. It's kind of a thankless business, but thank you for this information tonight.
Thank you. Sabina.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Vic, Sarah, and Les. This presentation has really empowered me to answer a lot of questions that we get as PSPS happens. And Sarah, for your email communication, that's been very helpful. In really, like Vic mentioned, I have clearly seen how you guys have kind of, from where, and that's the reality of things, right? Sometimes you don't anticipate things, and then you plan better for it year after year. So, from the time when we first PSPS, we heard the word PSPS, to now and all the information that's available, really appreciate it, and really helps us answer a lot of community questions. because residents just come to us and say what's going on. We're freaking out. So thank you.
I have to admit, Sabina, you've got the question of the night. When you mentioned undergrounding power lines, and I think it was Vic came back and said, yeah, our CEO's looking at that. And I'm thinking of, you know what? Why don't you just spend the rest of your life computing pi, because it's probably going to be less of a headache. When you start telling people, look what we're doing for you, undergrounding the power lines here, so a tree that the judge should have said, cut it down so it can't fall on your line, instead says, no, we're going to do this to save it from having a PSPS. And you're going to get comments kind of like you did tonight. You're going to do what before you underground them in front of my house? I mean, I was here when that was the thing, and it was not a lot of fun. Undergrounding power lines is a major, major problem. But so is the particulate matter from these fires. And I mean, you guys just unfortunately fell into, the eye of the storm. I still don't get it. I mean, and I've been pushing this at the Air District for I don't know how many years. If you put out a fire in the first hour, it takes a few people. If you wait until it's expanded, which if you didn't know about it, I guess you don't have a choice. I don't care how many people you got, the thing seems to spread. I was in front of our, I'll call him second command at the Air District. I said, look, Brazil finally gets it. They sent 50,000 people down to fight the fire. To which he told me, he says, yeah, Dave, it's the size of Texas. And if you wait that long, all of this stuff is gone now that we were talking about. And all the climate change stuff really goes on the back burner, because particulate matter from fires is the #1 cause of health effects in the air in the Bay Area, and the #2 cause of climate change. So it almost falls on deaf ears when everybody, oh, we got to do this, we got to study it, when we're not doing the thing that's right in front of us. And that's, we're going to be fighting a fire somewhere in California into November. And when is it? July now? Anyway, so those are my 2 comments. I got a little wound up tonight. You guys got to be the benefit. I had to laugh because my son was telling me this the last time I was mayor in 2001. He was with the ISO. We're going to cut the power, Dad. You got 30 minutes. Unfortunately, they didn't call me back 20 minutes later to tell them they found some power from Bonneville or something like that. Like an idiot, I'm giving a speech in front of the director of the hospital that people aren't going to be able to get to their appointments. Okay, any other comments other than thank you, PG&E? Thank you, PG&E. And we will move on to the rest of the much awaited. You guys can stick through the end of this if you'd like, because the next one is the highly anticipated city manager.
I think Councilmember Veros had his hand up.
Oh, he did? Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at it. Sridhar, you get the last comment. Go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's wait for a great presentation and sharing valuable information. From my side, the feedback, definitely public outreach, how we can share the information is going to be very critical. After all this great work you did, if we don't share this information with the community, that will be definitely a loss. So from our side, we'll definitely go into the community and share as much as we can. That's one. And the second feedback is like you shared all the actions that you are taking when things can happen and all that. So it will be nice if you can add one more slide where you can present what are your goals in future about addressing upcoming, so that will give more information for some of the curiosity thinkers, right? So that will help them to understand what the hard work that you are working on to mitigate and address these issues for future. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys. And anything you have in writing, that we actually do put these things up around City Hall, and I guess it's now the fire police, not permitting out of 2401, but people pick these things up and they keep them and they look at what's written in there. And a lot of those goals that they were just asking you about will be committed to memory. If not, they'll pull them out of a drawer 10 years from now. But again, thank you, PG&E, and we're going to move on to item 11, the highlight of the night, city manager comments. Wait for it. Here it comes.
Well,
evening, Mayor and City Council. Just one update, if you aren't aware. In November, the City Council voted unanimously to pass the preservation agreement for the Tassajara Valley, the Tassajara Parks development out in Tassajara Valley, which includes the preservation of about 17,000 acres, and to include dedication of over 700 acres of open space. And so that went to the Board of Supervisors today. I know that Vice Mayor Perkins commented on it as well, and it passed at the Board of Supervisors on a 4-1 vote. So that is moving forward, and if it's successful in, or is not challenged, or is successful in any legal challenge, then there'll be a step forward to some of the City Council's goals towards preservation of our hills and open spaces on the east side of the city. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you, Joe. And we are on to our second public comment of the night. Public comments open. If you have not previously spoken under public comment, item 4, please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone. When it's your turn to talk, we will call you by name if your name is provided. Your remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person, and a clock will be running on the Zoom screen. I'm delaying to see if anybody of the last 10 attendees haven't spoken already. Going once, going twice. Public comment is closed. City Council members, your comments for the night. All right, Sabina, I know you're dying to get out there. I can tell. Nope, Scott jumped ahead of you. Go ahead, Scott.
3 things. Hey, like Joe mentioned, the Tassajara Parks, there are a number of actions. There's a change to their general plan and a few other things. It expands the urban limit line by 30 acres in that local zone. The one big fly in the ointment is East Bay Mud has not agreed to provide water at this time. They have had some negotiations, but at this time, East Bay Mud has not agreed to provide water. So the developer will have to reach an agreement with East Bay Mud, because in the absence of water, there will be no development. I want to thank the whole of city staff, because I know that it's more than just Parks and Community Services, but Parks and Community Services really took the lead, and they did a fabulous job on the 4th of July. What a huge crowd.
Wow,
Fleetwood
yes.
Mask is a very popular group here, and that was the biggest crowd I've ever seen at our amphitheater. So kudos to Parks and Community Services and the whole staff for making that happen. Went to the Library Foundation meeting last night, and they're looking to put on a couple of jazz concerts immediately following the city summer concert series. So the summer concert series concludes, I think it's the 7th of August or the 8th of August. And then so in the following couple of weeks, the the Library Foundation wants to put on a couple of jazz concerts out there for free as well. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And whoever turns off their mute, for Sabina got it first, then Mark.
Yeah, I can just follow Scott and say there's going to continue to be concerts in the park. I'm volunteering next week with the Arts Foundation and pouring some drinks. So come over to our booth, support the Arts Foundation there.
Well, wait a minute. Drinks? You might have to clarify, you're pouring drinks in the park?
The Arts Foundation sells drinks and alcohol at the park. And with that money, we're able to support the arts in San Ramon.
Get ready, Martin.
And Martin, did I say anything wrong here?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
He's in line. I'm sorry, Sabina, go on with your report.
I don't know. I see Gary in the audience. He can correct me if I'm doing anything. Yeah, but I would say come and enjoy the concerts. I think it's awesome that we're doing those. One of the things actually I've been thinking about, and as I've been talking to other council members and mayors through cities, is that we don't have a sister city. So I would really like for us to think about, I mean, it's kind of a tradition for cities to have a sister city where, you kind of establish that, and us being such a diverse, population here as well. I know some cities have 2 or 3 different sister cities. So I don't know, that's, something we just ask Joe to look into, or something we want to consider as a council. But I would like us to think about that. So yeah, that's kind of, my updates tonight.
We can always think about it. I never remember where, I know we, same thing from Tree Cities, we went up there, but go ahead, Mark. You're up.
I want to echo what people have said about the 4th of July. The concert that evening was fantastic. I enjoyed handing out commemorative coins to a lot of our veterans. Just a wonderful event to see people out, probably most cases for the first time since the pandemic started, out in the public gathering. So that was really great to see. Earlier in the day, Mayor Hudson and I and Julia Osland from the Parks Commission were at the kickoff of the 5K run walk, and it was well attended there, probably 525 participants. It was great. We got to hand out some medals at the end of that too. Yesterday, I attended another senior advisory committee meeting, just for update for all of you and for any the public that are still on. Our senior center reopened on the 6th of July. They've got some new desk hours at the front desk from 8:30 to 3 p.m. That's Monday through Friday. And they've got a drop box there for suggestions, or if you call after 3, that rolls over into the community center. We also got a briefing by, it was John Cunningham from Contra Costa County. He's a planner, and he briefed us, the group, on the Contra Costa County Accessible Transportation Strategic Plan. And I know, Mayor Hudson, you were part of the Policy Advisory Committee. They mentioned that, and your participation in helping to put this plan together. I guess there's been several over the years, and they're hoping that this one will actually get some teeth. They're going to form a task force to do some implementation of this plan that they've come up with. It's been complex because there's so many different stakeholders and funding issues and things like that. But they've got the objectives laid out, and hopefully around the September-October timeframe, they're going to get this task force meeting kicked off and begin implementation. And then just the last update in terms of program, the senior center, after about 16 months, they're resuming their lunch program at the senior center. You can now eat at the senior center, and they're transitioning that meal program from its delivery service, although they're still going to offer some pickup service through the end of July. And then and seniors can still sign up for the separate program, Meals on Wheels, but that congregate meal lunch program is starting back up. So, and that's my report.
Good news. Sridhar.
On June 30th, I had opportunity to attend our State of City meeting by Good job, Mayor Hudson, for presenting great presentation. So it was nice to see a lot of folks there in person. That is like after COVID, that's like first in-person meeting I had an opportunity to attend. So it was wonderful to see you and many other city officials and our city businesses. And then regarding, one more thing is about our summer concert series. This is on August 1st, Sunday, August 1st, we are going to have our first ever Bollywood music. Thanks to Steve Cox for getting our flyer ready for marketing. So I'll be sharing that flyer pretty soon within the community, as well as hopefully, please, you all share that with your connections, and let's make this the first successful Bollywood concert. Thank you.
Okay, see, there's an attendee who wants to speak. I guess I'll go through the whole thing, which is council and mayor comments. I just want to point out because Mark brought up a very good point, our accessible transportation strategy is really sitting back waiting for a blue ribbon task force. Jim Sparing, the supervisor with MTC on their board, is heading it up. But we're really looking forward to see how we can bring all these things together. Everybody has great ideas. Then you got to get the money. Then you got to get people to agree with it. But just as an example of the importance of it, right now, if somebody, our seniors, were to go to a hospital in San Mateo County, they might have to change buses twice. Just the simple thing of, and I brought it up at the State of the City when Sridhar was there, of being able to take one person on one vehicle without having to change makes a world of difference. And it's more of the bringing the Uber type ideas into what we're doing. I give a lot of that credit to Rashida at CCCTA from highlighting that as part of her focus on like Link and some of the other things we do. So the Blue Ribbon Task Force, we'll be looking for that. We're going to have this weekly, I'm sure, where they're talking about climate change. I want to point out how fast and how early we got involved. I mean, Sabina wasn't even on council and she signed on to the diesel-free and 33 pledge that we made, and we're following up with that from the Air District. I would just ask that before people get heavily into the crises and climate change, realize that there's the mandate, the law, the legal that came about in 2006. I brought it up at the State of the City also, and that's AB 32. Read it, read the scoping plan, and you'll see that 2/3 of all the emission reductions we're going to do is through electricity and vehicle miles traveled. And the only way we can deal with vehicle miles traveled is doing projects like City Walk. And that's what I mean when I say we're well ahead on that. We just were 2 of the top 3 point getters to get more charging in the city of San Ramon. We'll be receiving it. I think it adds up to about $77,000 between the 2. One was Bollinger Crest, the other is the city of San Ramon. Actually, the developer at Bollinger Crest got another one in Brentwood, simply by going to the meetings and learning how to apply for just a ton of money that's out there. The rest of the cities are finally waking up to it. Joe, I can't say that this place looks great. I mean, I don't know whose idea this was, but they get well, if they play in the city golf tournament, they can take a stroke off. Debbie has a great letter she sent to Luz Gomez. Anybody wants to know about what we're doing at climate change, I don't think you can say any more on what she sent out to her. Send all letters to Debbie Chamberlain. Oh, darn, she's still here. On a sadder note, and I don't know if there's any other information on it, I received an email that came to me Monday that former Parks Commissioner and many other things, Joe, Bill Miney had a massive heart attack. And I don't know if he's still with us. He's at Walnut Creek. I received a letter about it. I just got it before we came on the air tonight. And I'm going to go down there tomorrow at Walnut Creek. He's at John Muir. You know, it's so bad. COVID came along at the worst time for Bill and Misty Miney. They were going to celebrate their 75th wedding anniversary when COVID hit. I mean, just an amazing guy. He was a chaplain that was on staff here with us back during 9/11, which seems like a long time ago. And he's one of these people, the names that will be around for long, Bill Miney, Dick Fay, Byron Athen, they're just part of what this city was at the very beginning. I hope he's still with us. Just, you know, unfortunately, you get into the 90s, it's not that good. So if I'll leave it at that. There's one attendee that wants to speak, Christina Bringer, and I have a feeling we may have missed public comment. I don't want to head off the night on such a downer. Let's bring her in.
Public comment, we've passed public comment.
No, I mean, no, she put her hand up during this comments, our comments.
Okay.
And we have allowed her to speak to it, so we'll do it. Until Martin tells me I can't. Go ahead, caller. You're still muted. I can hear you.
Hi. Okay, can you hear me? Yes, you can?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to respond to Council members, as far as suggestions, Sister City, may I suggest Port-au-Prince in Haiti? We all know that recently their president was shot 12 times. His left eyeball was gouged out. It is an assault of democracy. He is a people elected president, but a foreign mercenary just go in there and kill him. I wish that we could go in there to help him out. We are a city who could help him out with waste management. We can help him out with hill study to help him create buildings that will last and will not tumble every time they have an earthquake. We can also help them out with policing. We have great police here that we can help them out with their public security. I just, would like to make that suggestion if council members or FAR would entertain that idea. Regarding climate change, I just want to say that those two public comments, they are lobbyists. They are not normal residents who care about our city. They want to push for microgrid so they can make money. I wonder if even PG&E is behind this, because if we pay for it, then PG&E doesn't need to pay for it. Please be extremely careful with these sheep, but there are these wolves disguised as sheep. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll close the public comment on that. Before I entertain a motion to close and adjourn, I just want to say the micro climate idea, it's just something we've been, individually, Scott, you probably heard it. I know I've been talking to Jesse Arrakeen about it, the mayor of Berkeley, and they've got it. It doesn't just fit for everybody. It's just not as easily to turn the ship, the micro idea. But, when it advances, kind of like the autonomous vehicle, it didn't work the first time, but it might be getting a little closer. Who knows? So anything you hear about it, let's do it. I would just ask that Sabina had a request, check into it, get back to her on it. We'll see how far we can advance it. And if there's no other comments, Sabina's raising her hand to move to adjourn. Go ahead, Sabina.
No, I just wanted to share one other comment that we'd gotten an email from Ramesh about 3 youths that had Tri-Valley players that had made it to the USA U19 national cricket team, and they will be playing against other countries as part of the World Cup qualifiers. And what's really important to see is that 6 years back, he mentioned there were no youth programs. And so, kudos, we've all supported the cricket fields. We've all, really supported cricket in our communities. And this is really great to see that 3 of our Tri-Valley youth players will be playing at an international level. So just wanted to share that. I think, it's...
No, thank you so much, Sabina. And that's Sanjay Krishnamurthy.
That's Ajay Amadi.
Ajay Amadi.
Ajay Amadi, and I believe
Rohan Pospanapalli and Sakanda Rohit Sharma.
West Zone Reds. What are you turning out? What are you feeding these people, Sridhar? What's going on out here? And what's amazing to me is how fast this can happen. And I think that's what you were saying before I cut you off, Sabina. And the same thing happened at golf. We had the world champions in 2014. Junior golf program came from almost nothing. Anyway, we're getting off subject. I know Martin's going to hit me pretty quick. For Sridhar, you had a comment?
Oh, thanks, Sabina, for bringing that up.
Yes, thank you.
I've seen these 3 kids growing up from babies almost. It's very nice to see them now representing country in championships. So it's great.
We can name some more parks eventually.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned. We are adjourned to the next council meeting, which will be held on July 27th, 2021. So if there's no objection, thank you all for a great meeting. And again, Scott, did you have something to add, or you just saying?